Good morning. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News Now, coming to you from our digital desk. A news conference going on with the Ohio State Highway Patrol, AAA, and ODOT, trying to anticipate the traffic problems for the eclipse. Let's take you there live.
Distracted driving knows no bounds. It can affect anyone, anywhere, at any time. Whether it's texting behind the wheel or typing an address into your GPS, distractions can have devastating consequences. Every moment spent distracted is a moment robbed from safe driving, and the results can be catastrophic. As many of you recall, in April of 2023, Ohio's distracted driving laws was strengthened, making it a primary offense. This change has empowered our law enforcement officers to be more effectively combat distracted driving and hold accountable those who engage in this reckless behavior. Since the enforcement of this law began in October of 2023, our troopers have issued more than 3,500 citations for distracted driving. That's a dramatic 119% increase from the same time frame in 2022. These numbers underscore the seriousness with which we approach this issue and the unwavering commitment to keeping our roadways safe. By coming together as a community and raising awareness about the dangers of distracted driving, we can make a tangible difference. We are now beginning to see the fruits of our labor. Last year, we saw the lowest number of distracted driving related fatal crashes that we've had in the past 5 years. Troopers will continue to make distracted driving violations a priority, not only this month, but throughout the year, to reduce the number of serious injury and fatal crashes on Ohio's roadways. As we embark on this Distracted Driving Awareness Month, let us renew our commitment to safe driving practices. Let us pledge to eliminate distractions behind the wheel and be vigilant stewards of road safety. Let us honor the memory of those who have been lost to distracted driving by taking action to prevent further tragedies. On behalf of the Ohio State Highway Patrol, I urge each and every one of you to join us in this vital mission. Together, we can make our roads safer for all who travel them. Thank you. With that, I'd like to introduce Jim Garrity from AAA.
Hey, everyone. All right, my name's Jim Garrity. I'm the Director of Public Affairs for AAA East Central. And thank you for joining us. Thank you to ODOT. Thank you to the Ohio State Highway Patrol for joining us to get the message out about April being Distracted Driving Awareness Month. Perfect time of the year, really, to talk about distracted driving. Of course, all year, distracted driving is and remains one of the fastest growing threats on our roadways. April, though, is a great time to talk about it because we're right around the corner from road trip season. An increase of travel as people start hitting the roads for vacations, as you see generally traffic increasing with the good weather. So it's a great time of the year to talk about that. And this year we do have a unique event, of course, on Monday, the eclipse. And with the eclipse upon us and Cleveland being in the path of totality, you may find yourself on Monday interacting and finding people who think it's a good idea to pull over at the roadside to take a peek and see the spectacle. It's going to be a spectacle, but you need to, if you're going to enjoy it, you need to do so safely. And that does not mean pulling over to the side of the road. In fact, that's against the law, and it's dangerous. You're blocking a potential path for first responders, and you're putting yourself in danger for a roadside incident that could potentially be avoided. If you're going to be enjoying the eclipse, nothing wrong with that if you're doing it safely, which means parked in a safe location, away from traffic, not just traffic that's traveling by, but even in parking lots, you want to make sure that you're not putting yourself in harm's way. If you are driving down the road and you encounter people who are at the roadside, move over and give them space. Even though they're not supposed to be doing that, you don't want to be bumping up against them. At AAA, we have a campaign known as the Don't Drive Intoxicated, but also Don't Drive Intoxicated campaign. And the reason that we make that connection is that the crashes can be equally as deadly. You can come across, all too often I hear from law enforcement when they come across crashes that the distracted crashes and the impaired driving crashes, they look just about the same in terms of damage. They can be just as deadly. And as drunk driving instances have fortunately come down over the past 30, 40 years, unfortunately, distracted driving incidences are increasing. So with that in mind, we call on the motoring public this April to say to themselves, what can I do different behind the wheel? What little step, big step. What do I have to do to avoid whatever form of distraction it is that's impacting me? Cell phone, radio, GPS, eating breakfast, doing your hair on the way to work, whatever. It's all distractions. For teen drivers, you know, one of the biggest distractions for them is other teens who are in the car with them as they're joyriding. So their distractions come in a variety of forms, and it's up to us as motorists to say, what is my form of distraction, and what am I doing to get ahead of that and avoid that? And particularly, and I'll wrap with this, in light of it being, you know, the good weather's on the way, summer road trips, construction at the roadside, you're going to have so many more people who are at the roadside this summer, whether it's ODOT construction workers, Ohio State Highway patrollers, AAA tow truck operators who are out there working on behalf of AAA for our members to get them safely out of harm's way, firefighters, police, whoever. These are people who are working at the roadside but have family who are waiting for them at home, and we owe it to them to do what we can to keep them safe. And that means paying attention to Ohio's move over, slow down law, which means if you can't move over, well, what we need to do as motorists in the state of Ohio is when we come across somebody who's at the roadside, if we can move over safely, that's step number one. And if you can't, slowing down so that you're not putting them in harm's way, because speed, and AAA data has found this to be conclusive, speed makes a major factor in whether or not an incident, a crash, is deadly or not, and the extent of the damage. So and one of the biggest things you can do, and unfortunately we see at AAA, tow operators who are killed sometimes at the roadside. And too many, if not the majority of those crashes, are completely preventable, sometimes caused by distractions. So with that, Amanda from ODOT.
Now lower your cameras. Not quite as tall as everyone else. I'm Amanda McFarland, A-M-A-N-D-A, McFarland, M-C-F-A-R-L-A-N-D, and I'm a Public Information Officer for ODOT here in Northeast Ohio. Thank you all for joining us as we kick off Distracted Driving Awareness Month. Although ODOT is not an enforcement agency, distracted driving is of the utmost importance for us when improving safety on our roadways. And so today I stand with AAA and the Ohio State Highway Patrol to strongly support the issue of not driving distracted. For ODOT, the problem is twofold. To put it simply, too many people are dying unnecessarily because of distracted driving. In the 5-year period from 2019 to 2023, there were 170 fatal crashes that resulted in 185 deaths because of distracted driving. Secondly, distracted driving is a major concern for our men and women who are working on the roadside. We often hear from those roadside workers about close calls, or even worse, them getting struck by other vehicles. Many times these incidents are caused by drivers who don't have their attention on the roadway. They're focused on something else. Focusing on the roadway really should be common sense, but unfortunately in many cases it's just not. People are not doing it. Already this year, our ODOT crews have been struck 43 times. That's workers, equipment, and vehicles. It's only April 4th. On Tuesday, there were 2 crews in Cuyahoga County that were struck. The first was in the morning. They were working on I-90 just east of downtown Cleveland, setting up a work zone. One car had seen our crew and slowed down. The car behind it did not slow down, rear-ended that vehicle, which in turn pushed them into our crew. Thankfully, there were no injuries there. The second one was in the evening. Crews were setting up to begin repairing a guardrail on 480 westbound at the I-77 interchange when a vehicle left the roadway and struck our crew and the pickup truck. Again, thankfully, no one was injured. While I can't say that these were a result of distracted driving, they were clearly a result of inattention while they were behind the wheel. In all of 2023, we had 56 workers, equipment, and vehicles struck. So if you'll remember just a minute ago, I said we've had 43 to date. In all of 2023, we had 56. Clearly, there's an issue out there, and inattention behind the wheel is causing a lot of that. Each of these crashes would likely be preventable if folks were paying attention, obeying the speed limit, and not driving impaired. It's difficult to move over or slow down if your attention is not on the roadway. You're not going to see what's coming if you're not looking ahead. And it's time that we take responsibility into our own hands. Put your phones down, keep your eyes on the road for your own safety, as well as the safety of the men and women that are working on our roadsides. They work to ensure that the roads are safe for you to get to your destination. And the only thing that they ask in return is that you pay attention to ensure that they make it home safely at the end of the day. Phones down, Ohio. Thank you. Questions?
Obviously, there'll be an added distraction on Monday, but you won't have to deal with that again for another 400 and some years.
Yeah.
But, and I'm going to want to follow up with Sergeant Matt as well.
Sure.
But what is ODOT doing to try to get the message out to the public about Monday, whether it's the billboards, maybe not doing construction on? Can you tell me more about how ODOT is getting the word out, trying to minimize distractions when the eclipse happens?
Yeah, mostly our message is very similar to Ohio Tourism. We want people to come early. We want people to stay late. We're not trying to get people to be rushing in and out with the mass amounts of traffic. Also reminding people, as Jim said, not to park on the side of the roadways. That is not a safe viewing location for the eclipse. Additionally, if you're traveling during the eclipse, it's going to get very dark and you might be tempted to want to pick up your phone and snap a picture of it. Not a good idea. If you're going to watch, there's plenty of great viewing locations all across Northeast Ohio and all throughout the path of totality. So finding a safe place like that to do so. We are pulling back the majority of our work zones. Those that are in a permanent configuration, unfortunately, we're not able to do that, but you can find those on ogo.com.
Sergeant Matt, are you putting out extra patrols on Monday because of the eclipse?
Yes, so the Ohio State Highway Patrol has issued a mandate for that weekend. We're treating it like a holiday reporting period, like we typically do for other holidays, July 4th, Christmas, and so forth. So that means that troopers are restricted from taking leave during that time, so Sunday and Monday. We will be in full force, so we will have all hands on deck. The main focus of the patrol is going to be to make sure that everyone that's traveling either to or from the event get there safely. So that we do realize there will be an influx or an increase of motorists on our roadways, specifically to those areas of totality. And so we will be out there highly visible for any case that motorists find themselves stranded or on the side of the road needing assistance. So we do urge everyone again to avoid the temptation to pull over on the side of the road and park on the shoulder. As a reminder, that is illegal to park on the side of the highway. We want to make sure that those lanes stay free from vehicles in the event that there's an actual emergency and our troopers or other emergency responders need to get to a location quickly.
Can I add something on the eclipse?
We can get all three of you up there if you want. We kind of need that shot anyway.
Okay.
Oh,
Sure. So even if you're not planning on pulling over to enjoy the eclipse, if you're driving, you need to make sure that you avoid the temptation to kind of peek out the window, right, and try to catch it from the car. If you're driving, you need to focus on driving, and also don't forget when the eclipse hits, it's going to be so dark that you're going to need to make sure your lights are ready to go and on. It sounds like something that would be simple, but something that definitely bears repeating.
Right, and that leads me to my question of like, okay, you know, there's obviously people don't have their glasses on, right? You're supposed to keep your glasses on because it's safety and your eyes can burn. So is there a point where people should just clear the road completely, or can you keep on traveling
Solar.
without solar?
You say glasses, you mean like solar eclipse
Yeah,
glasses?
yeah.
But
Can
you're
you
not
keep on-
driving.
You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be wearing the solar eclipse glasses behind the wheel.
Well, right.
Yeah.
You can't see at all.
Right,
But
yeah.
I'm saying, like, you know, are you guys telling people during that time where it's unsafe to look at the sun? Are you saying completely get off the road, or are you saying you can continue to travel?
What I would say is if you are going to continue to travel, you need to be wary not just of that it's going to be darker, but that you may encounter people who are trying to enjoy it in a way that's unsafe, and that you as a motorist need to be fully paying attention. And this is for eclipse time. This is for all year round. Your number one job behind the wheel at all times is keeping you and everyone around you on the roads safe and alive.
All right, but during that time,
There is no legal restriction on traveling during the time of the eclipse.
Is most of your troopers going to be on the highways just to make sure there's people not stopping at the berm and like, it's not to enforce any laws, just
Correct.
get them safe.
Right, exactly. So our primary concern, again, is going to be able to make sure our roadways are clear to facilitate easy transportation from people coming to the sites and leaving those viewing sites. So our troopers will be stationed, we use statistical analysis, so it's going to be on those roadways or highways that have the highest crash pictures, so the main thoroughways. So we're talking about the interstates. That's where they'll be located. That's where the majority of people travel. And if anyone finds themselves in need, whether it's a blown tire or they ran out of gas, we'll have troopers able to assist them.
This is so rare. That have you all been able to talk to whether the state police in other jurisdictions or other places that have experienced this and learn anything from them about what to expect from drivers?
Absolutely.
Not everyone's probably going to watch this.
Absolutely. Between whether it's local, state, or even national levels, we've been in communication with all of our safety service partners, whether it be AAA, ODOT, the State Highway Patrol, EMA, all of our partners have been in collaboration and with other states as well who have already experienced the eclipse. So we have been very thoroughly prepared for this event.
Is there anything that you learned that maybe you didn't think about but learned from someone in another state that had experienced it? Maybe not.
Does anyone else?
I have a little something.
Yeah, if you want to.
So, as Sergeant Matt mentioned, yeah, we've been hearing from other states that have experienced this, and one of the things that we learned was about how the influx of traffic is likely going to make things very difficult to leave, and that's why a lot of our messaging came around arrive early and stay late in an effort to try and eliminate those significant backups. Additionally, we heard that a lot of people were running out of gas because they were stuck in those backups. So another one of our messages is to make sure that you've got your fuel tank filled up before you hit the road, and if you're driving an electric vehicle, make sure you've got a full charge as well. So those were a couple of lessons learned that I think everyone should know about.
It's a little off the beaten path, but I know I did a story the other day about cameras and the effect that the eclipse might have on cameras that they're facing. If you don't have dash cams on and they're seeing the eclipse, does that potentially damage the cameras, or have you all?
I would not be the person to ask.
Okay.
I do not know that, and that is something that I don't have any knowledge of.
Can you just, I know I'm bringing this back up again, but I just want to be able to use the soundbite, so people can understand. So can you just walk people through that experience of driving? Let's say you're driving down the highway, you're being safe, you obviously aren't going to pull over, but what are the things you're going to experience? You know, turn your lights on, things like that. Don't look directly into the sun. Like, what would be your advice for people that are having to travel that day?
So people who aren't pulling over.
So for any motorists that do find themselves actually traveling on the roadway during the moments of the eclipse, our recommendation would be to continue maintaining your focus and attention on the roadway. Do not attempt to look at the sun or the eclipse, and to make sure that you're being aware of your surroundings, whether that be other cars that have decided to slow down or stop, or any emergency personnel that are trying to get to or from a scene. So that would be our advice, to just maintain your time and attention and focus on the roadway, and do not look at the eclipse while driving.
One other thing, you mentioned that one of the things that you learned is that there's going to be a large influx of people leaving. Yeah. Did you find in some of these other places that during the time of the eclipse that the traffic on the highways becomes lighter because people are pretty much at their destinations where they want to watch this, or is it normal? Or?
Yeah, it's that part of it is just going to kind of depend on what the weather does, honestly. If we get the nice clear skies, I think you're going to find less traffic traveling on the roadways during that time, because people do want to witness it. As you mentioned, it's something that only happens every few hundred years, so it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm thinking if the weather is a little bit cloudy, some people might forego their stops and continue on their travels instead of stopping. So it's all going to depend on exactly what the weather does.
I got, I don't know if this is useful or not, but
From AAA's perspective, AAA conducted a quick overview and a look into hotel bookings, and there's definitely an influx coming. When living in the path of totality, you should absolutely expect there's going to be more people coming to this area to see this spectacle, this, for many people, once in a lifetime spectacle, right? So it's something that everyone should keep in mind as they're planning their day. It could mean traffic. It could mean potential roadside dangers. But it's coming. It's something that the hotel booking data indicates all the areas in the path of totality are going to see more people. How much more, that's going to depend on where you are, where you're close to, but you should expect, no matter what, to see more people.
Thank you guys for coming.
Dan DeRose with 19 News as we wrap up our news conference here with the Ohio State Highway Patrol, ODOT, and AAA. Some of this is common sense. I can't believe we had to have a news conference telling people not to look directly at the sun while they're driving their car. But that's where we're at. Common sense being put out there. We are just a few days away, I believe 4 days away from the eclipse. Great animation from NASA showing exactly what's going to happen. It's a situation where you have the moon moving into position with the sun, and it throws a giant shadow down onto the earth. And you can see the path here, and it is going to come across northeast Ohio. The beginning of it moving into position where you're going to start to see it begin to cover the sun is right around 2 o'clock. We are in the path of totality right around 3:13, and then it moves out of northeast Ohio. Do not pull over, a big message. And we know that there's going to be traffic. If anything, that's maybe the best tip to come out of this is think about leaving. You're going to want to leave just as well as the other thousands of people that are around you. Make sure you have a full tank of gas. You don't want to be sitting in traffic somewhere with less than a quarter of a tank, and all of a sudden you run out of gas. Now you're an even bigger problem than the traffic was. So just some advice there from our safety officials here in Northeast Ohio. If we have any other breaking news, it'll be here on our digital platforms. Our 11 o'clock news just a half an hour away on CW43, then our noon news on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a great afternoon.
19 News is everywhere. Download our CTV apps and follow us on social media at Cleveland 19 News.